I was on a mission to create a unified EV ecosystem, to end the fragmentation between all the stakeholders. Affinity EV took the approach of looking at it from the inside out. We not only looked at it from the customer's perspective, but all the stakeholders. How does a dealership engage? How does an energy provider engage? How does a charger provider engage? The solution we have will bring together a global EV ecosystem via a single digital touch point, connecting all stakeholders. The future is here. The future is Affinity EV, connecting the automotive and energy sector. A world's first, world leaders.
Yeah, hello. Hi everyone, really appreciate everyone coming out and joining this session. Today we're going to talk about how to create a digital and unified EV ecosystem. And it's key. I'm joined by a leading panel. We're last on here today. It's probably the best session, I'm going to say anyway, with the best speakers. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, Andy Mount from Scottish Power. I look after the smart mobility team there, which really means anything to do with EV and EV charging infrastructure.
I'm Ewan Cameron. I'm the Stock and Marketing Director for Peter Vardy, so can try and give you some operational insights.
And I'm Jackie Barker. I'm the Global OEM Director for Keyloop, so I look after the team that look after our global relationships with OEMs.
Brilliant. So I suppose, what's this session going to be about today? I think if we look at the automotive industry today, it's much, much more than just an automotive industry. What we're seeing is the coming together of two massive sectors. We're seeing the automotive energy and all the stakeholders, and we're seeing the energy sector as well. So when we look at a kind of a customer's kind of buying journey or ownership of an electric vehicle, there's two sides now. As an automotive industry, we got to educate, inform, and allow customers to buy EVs in the best way. But from the other side, there's another journey, and it's totally fragmented at the moment, and that's the part of the energy and charging. How do we as an industry kind of ensure that we deliver a leading guest experience when they're buying an EV? So I think that leads me on to Ewan in terms of, from the Peter Vardy Group, what are you seeing in terms of the market at the moment, the struggles you're challenging, and the opportunities in the sector?
Yeah, I think, I've got a slide here from Auto Trader around the current sort of state of the market around supply of new EVs, and to be fair, the used car situation is pretty similar, and then where the leads are. And what I've just tried to highlight with this is the shortfall, the arrow that I'm trying to show there is that the amount of EV supply is significantly increasing, but the number of leads you'll see are actually decreasing. We obviously went through that peak period where fuel prices shot up, so people were really keen to get into an EV. And at that point, for dealers, it was a bit like pushing an open door. We were swamped with inquiries as a business. We probably got about 2.5 times the number of inquiries that we actually required on electric vehicles, but we still had a conversion issue because we didn't have the knowledge to help convert those. And now it's become even more pronounced because now we're at a point where the demand has dropped slightly, so that guest experience needs to be a lot better, and we need to do a far better sales job of being able to guide and convert people from an EV perspective. So that's why we're so focused on how do we make the process on EVs, and it's one that, Peter's here today, it's him that's leading it. We want to understand how important it is to us as a business. It's Peter that's actually championing this and leading it for us as a business. So we know it's really important. We try and make that journey as frictionless as possible, and make it as easy for guests, because the job's just got that little bit more difficult, but we know the supply of EVs is only going to be going up.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point you made in terms of trying to make it frictionless. And I suppose historically what we've seen is we have customers that are buying electric vehicles, and then we're passing them off into the energy sector world and recommending, here's a recommended supplier for a charger, here's a recommended supplier for an energy tariff, and there's been a total disconnect. But we're moving out of the early adopter stage, where an early adopter profile of a customer will have all the research done. they'll have their charger selected, they'll know what energy tariffs. Now we're tipping into that early majority. It's key for us as an industry to not just throw that customer over a wall and say, go find your own charger. It's to create that seamless end-to-end digital journey. And I suppose, Andy, that leads me on in terms of Scottish Power. How have you seen the change from early adopters to early majority, and how important are EV customers to you in your business?
Yeah, I think so. So when we talk about electrification of transport and to an extent heat, what we're actually talking about is a consolidation and integration of our energy supply systems, a unification, if you like. And that gives, I guess, the opportunity to streamline a number of processes because we're all talking in the same terms. So I think increasingly we're seeing an expectation from customers that it is more streamlined and more joined up and less fragmented and disparate, because it's the same stuff, it's the same thing, isn't it? So, your control of your EV, how you charge your EV, integrates with how you run your home and integrates in how you travel. So just consolidating all of that is the real opportunity in all this.
And I suppose, Jackie, that leads me on for Keyloop as a DMS and to deliver the experience first. How do you connect the sectors?
So what we're seeing from the OEMs that we speak to globally is how they're bringing new product to market, and that requires quite a lot of education that doesn't happen quickly. So consumers make quite considered choices when they're buying things. And I think over the years, people know that our systems facilitate huge amounts of data being transferred from OEMs into retailers and through the partner ecosystem. EVs, energy tariffs, all of these newer things that are coming online also need to be connected in so that we put the data in the hands of the retailers when they're working with customers. So it's not just about buying the new vehicle, it's about how you educate drivers to use that vehicle. We also know from lots of research that loyalty within a brand happens within the life of the vehicle. So you mentioned chucking the thing over the fence. I think how we keep customers informed throughout the life of the vehicle is going to be a really important step change. So how we consume, every month I get a reminder now in my app to update my energy tariff. That's now adaptable, so I can pay what I'm using. I don't really think we've seen enough of that connectivity in automotive yet, but actually the data that we're seeing coming out of vehicles is going to power completely different experiences, and the technology that sits behind that is really going to change the way that we live and work with and keep customers in a journey, or actually, rather than getting a huge bill at the end of a lease because you've gone over mileage, have some kind of flexible approach. The question that we ask when we're looking at innovation, that certainly I do, is if we look at what happens now, what's the wouldn't it be great if question? And it would be really great if we could help customers access the data from the vehicle at the point of use, because it's data from a field that goes into an application, whether you're buying a takeaway or a whatever. So I think the data is there, it's how we unlock it. James did a session this morning about unlocking the power of the data from not only the DMS, but it's how we then connect data from the vehicle into those systems.
Yeah, and I think that's the way that I suppose that personally I've thought of it is, we have this data in our DMS systems, is how do we connect up the likes of the Scottish Power, the charger manufacturer, and give dealership visibility, and I suppose in that sales journey. That brings me on to you, and in terms of the sales process, how do you see that shifting and changing now?
I think in terms of the sales process, to be fair, if I maybe just jump to this slide, the big change for us in terms of the sales process and why we really want the unified sort of EV ecosystem. If you look at it, a big thing that Peter talks to us about ever since the company's launched is about trying to play to strengths. So really that's about let your people do what they're best at. Let salespeople sell, don't make them administrators, which sometimes you try and do. So if you look at the things we ask salespeople to be experts in at the moment, we ask them to be an expert on the product, an expert around finance, an expert around add-ons, plus everything else, guest experience, GDPR. So they've got to be experts in those areas. And now we're adding in, all right, well, actually for an EV, we need you to be an expert on electrical engineering and how you would set up a charge point at home. Well, that's just not going to happen. And also they need to be an expert on energy tariffs, like their Martin Lewis from Money Supermarket or something. It's too much to ask of sales advisors, so that's not playing to their strengths. That's why you have to be careful. I talked about our conversion challenge for us earlier. There is a risk, and anyone that's been in a dealership or runs a dealership, you'll know that there's times you talk about sales prevention. So we have to be careful that we don't become sales prevention in that way through lack of knowledge. There was a McKinsey report out of America last year, and they talked about, they called it the 4 horsemen of preventing EV sales. The first 3 are the obvious ones, which are cost of an EV, range anxiety, and then charging infrastructure. The fourth one, they get talked about a lot. The fourth biggest thing to the consumers they interviewed was lack of dealer knowledge. And they were saying that was the fourth thing most likely to put them off or had stopped them from purchasing an EV. So that's why we want to prevent that. And that's why, to be honest, we've just partnered up with yourselves to kind of be our trusted partner to take that away from us. We want a partner that can, take the pressure away from us, to let us play to our strengths, make it frictionless for guests, easier for our colleagues because it helps train them up and takes away the bits they're not experts in. Speed up the process, which I'll get to later, which is absolutely critical right now with the way the market is. And then finally, it allows us to be proactive in the process again, which I can touch on later, rather than reactive, which is how we have been whenever someone's buying an EV.
Yeah, and I've seen that firsthand in terms of what we're saying is that expecting a sales advisor in a dealership to be an expert in a number of areas, and putting a salesperson's hat on, I suppose, when you look at it, if I have a petrol or diesel car there that I can sell in a quicker kind of time frame and not discuss charge and energy, that's the route I'm kind of going down. So it's very, very important as an industry, we empower our sales advisors to be able to sell with knowledge as well. And that kind of brings back in the whole energy piece, Andy, whereby getting a customer and getting that journey from dealership via a software platform like Affinity EV into Scottish Power, how important is that for you in terms of a business and the customers that we're bringing? Which will lead me on to Scottish Power or energy providers. In essence, an EV charger is a gateway product for the energy providers.
Absolutely, and I think part of the challenge we have is that the customers do get that sort of instant gratification and seamless journey in other sectors, and food and drink in particular is one example. So they're kind of starting to expect it in all aspects of their lives. So yeah, securing those customers is really good, and obviously it gives us that continuing journey. So it's not just a matter of selling a charger and then that's the end of the relationship. We want to build that longer term relationship and continue to provide that good customer service and good value. And you're right, that then leads on to other aspects. So the EV charger in the vehicle is the gateway product, but then you start to talk about your heat and power requirements in the home, and then how those hardware technologies integrate. And throughout the day, the utilization varies and complements each other, so that you're not just adding layers and layers of consumption, but actually we're using these technologies to balance things and make things more efficient for the customer, and ultimately to decrease the cost of ownership for all of this, because it shouldn't be a burden on your life, having to pay for heating, and it should be something that's almost provided for and managed with you in mind.
And it's kind of it brings us on to something we spoke about, Jackie, in terms of the rethink, how we rethink as an industry. You want to touch upon that? What should we do as an industry to rethink in terms of using and leveraging data and the likes of Keyloop?
Did you say retail? Sorry.
Rethink.
Oh, rethink. Sorry.
It's the accent.
It's the accent.
Yeah.
So in terms of rethinking, consumer behaviour obviously is continually evolving, and we're influenced by a number of different verticals outside of automotive. When we talked about rethinking, I know we had a bit of a pre-run through of this, it's what are the key areas that we think we need to cover, and it's in terms of selling vehicles and how we rethink about bringing products to market, there was always a very sort of them and us, and we talked in our experience first thing earlier on about creating an experience not just for walls or a dealership, but an experience centre. The technology now that allows consumers to, I know you're obviously at the leading edge of this, and Peter Vardy with your digital stores. When you're thinking about what do consumers want to do when they're in that space, you don't want them to leave to go somewhere else to get the information that they need when they're in that journey. So if you're really clear on what the questions a customer will have that they would ask a human, that they will probably look for online, they can also ask a human. So with your digital products, you can actually, I can do that online, but I can also do it sitting next to you in the store. So I think how we put salespeople and consumers on the same side of the desk in a transparent way. Salespeople are really good at selling, and the primary part of that is understanding. So you ask questions, you try to find out what that customer wants so that you can help them with the right solution. And that might be how they pay for it, how they're going to drive it. A really big gap has been in this industry for so long is the ability to compare thing A with thing B. It's very difficult because this product might be different from this product in a number of different ways. So we launched, I know in the last place I worked, we launched a really simple comparison tool that just demystified some of that really complex data around why is this thing better than that thing. If you're a company car driver or a consumer, what does the difference in tax mean, and how can you surface that data in a really simple way? So don't overcomplicate, because as a human, there are only so many decisions I can make in a day, and that's really well documented, that we just hit decision overload, we check out and we come back. So another really important thing is let me save that thing, so when I come back I haven't got to do it all again. And as technology continues to evolve, it allows us to not only give customers the ability to do more online, but we have the ability to track what consumers are doing online so that we can then intuitively serve them with the right messaging at the right time. So I think how we rethink the way that we retail is that we can use data and technology to make that process much more intuitive. When I go onto Amazon, it knows that I buy dog food every month. It's not going to make that difficult for me.
And it's a great point, and leads me on to rethinking the process, which I really believe in terms of when is the right point for a dealership to start introducing the whole energy journey and that whole survey piece. So I suppose what we've done, and you can touch upon this, is we're bringing the point of that home digital survey early into the customer's kind of journey of the buying journey. So say from pre-sales inquiry, what we've done with the Affinity platform is embedded in the sales process, whereby we're empowering the sales person to allow that customer to take their energy journey much earlier. What we don't want is to introduce a product or a journey after sale. And I think you can touch upon this one.
That's exactly what we found. So this is some very simple sort of diagrams of an average timeline of someone purchasing an EV. So the first one you see is like the traditional process, and really the bits to focus on are the green and red boxes. So going from inquiry stage through to purchase. Now, we had partnered with a different provider previously around helping us with charger setup and guiding guests, as we call them, through the process. Now, where that would happen is that would happen post the point of purchase. So where that sort of green stage is, they would purchase an electric vehicle from us, and then we would put them in touch via phone, not a digital process, via phone, with this company that would help them out. Now, the problem with that is that even if you look today at the leading charge point provider in the UK, they have a 5-day kind of appraisal time to assess your needs. And then after that, they have roughly a 2 to 3 week install time. So that means that from the point someone's purchased a vehicle from us, it's going to take 3 to maybe 4 weeks before they'll actually get that installed at home. People do not want to collect their electric vehicle until they've got that at home, because that's when they get the cheap rate charging. That's when they can actually live their life. That's a massive problem for dealers. That was a massive problem before what happened last month with cap prices. So you're sitting there with a vehicle off sale for 4 weeks, and some of the real key problems with that slowdown, try to put up there. You've got a cancellation risk, because at that point, that might be the point that someone finds out the cost of home charging is going to be a lot more expensive than they anticipated, so they could cancel the deal when we've had a vehicle off sale for a large amount of time, and it's depreciated. The days to sell increase, which is a big depreciation risk for us. You've got the potential depreciation in their part exchange. So again, you don't really want to get back into renegotiation with people. It's quite a poor guest experience because they're dealing with multiple sources for information. And similarly, because they're only doing that bit post-purchase, if they've been asking the dealership, dealerships tend to be not that well trained in general, as much as we try. In general, you'll find their knowledge base is quite poor. And also from our perspective, there's no visibility. So at that point, we've said, contact these people. If we want to find out where they are in the process, we had to phone the guest. That's a terrible guest experience for us to basically be almost harassing them to say, when's your point going in so we can get this car delivered? Oh, and I probably need to speak to you now about the price of your car coming down. What you guys have allowed us to do with your platform is, because it's digital, we don't need to wait to the point of purchase, so that's why you've seen it's moved forward there. Literally at the point of inquiry, we can set someone up into the Affinity EV system, so they can start doing the pre-work. It's all those things, looking into the charge point, and it's super easy because it's all digital, so they're just going to look for some photos around your house to understand where the point would go, and some photos of utility, your last energy bills. So again, they'll be able to help you with the tariffs and the charge point from that. So guests are almost pre-qualifying themselves before we've even got them in to test drive and purchase. So that process has probably already started a week to 10 days earlier than what it was with ourselves. It'll also qualify, sorry, I should touch on the kind of positive points there. The guests will self-qualify themselves as well a little bit, which really helps. So early stage, if someone's not, if it is going to be too expensive for them, they'll opt themselves out of the process. That's okay for us, because it lets us deal with the better qualified leads, which is a big sell to our own sales team. There was a study when Peter set up Silver Bullet, our storefront product, which is now part of Keyloop for online buying. There was a study by the Harvard Business Review around when people do their own sales process, they do it digitally and they effectively buy the product themselves. What we found with what that study showed was people were 20% more likely to purchase because they've invested their own time and their own emotion into the process. And we found that through that process, the vehicles we sold via our storefront online buying platform had far better finance penetration than normal, zero discounting, so we're more profitable. And I think that's where this gives you that, a better guest experience. We can see what's happening the whole way through the process, so we know exactly where someone is, because it's all online. If they've got the charge point fitted, again, we don't need to follow up. And then it takes the pressure off our sales team, but also the big one is that even if someone doesn't turn into a sale, they're still in the program. And we can get updates to see that actually, oh no, they have progressed to looking into booking a charger install, so it gives us an ability to follow up, which we didn't have before, so it's sped up the process and shortened it.
And it's that re-engage whereby a customer has come so far along the journey and they've got their quote for their home charger, and it enables and empowers a kind of a dealership to re-engage back with that customer. Can we do anything to get the deal over the line? Can we support you in any way to go electric? In terms, Andy, from an energy point of view and having dealerships side by side with you, how do you see that evolving over time?
Just before I answer that, if you don't mind, I'll go into the installation process. What that does, if you bring that process up ahead 5 or 10 days, is it allows us to identify issues. So we price obviously on a standard installation, but not every house is the same and not every customer is the same, and so there may be variances to that process that need to be identified and costed and processed and approved. So it allows us to do that much earlier in the process, and it's less of a surprise to the customer when they occur. So if they need a surge protector or a clamp to balance the load or anything, whatever it may be, it allows us to do that and plan it, and the customer is more aware up front. In terms of the kind of energy supply side of things, you're right, the customer wants to be able to benefit from that cheaper charging, and so again, the hardware is a facilitator of that, and what that means to the customer is that, you know, not having to rely on the public infrastructure, which is inherently more expensive, and we are a CPO, so I'm perhaps cutting my nose off here, but you know, you've got the VAT implications for a start, never mind all the other implications in the public network that just make it all much more expensive and a less enjoyable experience for the consumer. So the facilitation of that energy consumption is really, really important, and then it allows companies like us to make those offers to customers, you know, an off-peak tariff or a more dynamic tariff, and it just opens up the opportunities to present a consumption commodity product that benefits the customer, and that we wouldn't have without the charger.
And so it's about tailoring their experience for the customer.
Exactly.
Again, Jackie, that goes back to our point, by it is data. We got to leverage, as an industry, we got to leverage the data we have to deliver a truly end-to-end digital experience. I hope everyone enjoyed the panel discussion, and if anyone has any questions, we'll try to answer them. We can't say we'll give it a shot. Thank you. No questions.
Really good or really bad.
yeah. Could be really bad or really good. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Brilliant. Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.